On Wednesday, the state governors under the aegis of the Nigeria Governors Forum met with the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, to discuss the ongoing insecurity challenges across the country. The discussion focused on the security challenges in states with the aim of finding solutions to address the escalating violence. Babajide Ogusao, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is right here to share more intelligence about the insecurity wave and, of course, the way to peace. Babajide, great to have you again on the News at 10.
Good evening, Ayatollah.
Yes, indeed. So the Chief of Defense Staff, we understand, during the week met with the Nigeria governors, of course, to talk about the security situation where we are presently. So is there any information, Babajide, on what was agreed at this meeting?
After the meeting, sealed lips. It's not clear what was agreed and what was discussed. However, what is clear is that the Governors Forum missed the opportunity to have a wider participation in the room. So yes, we had the Chief of Defense Staff, but again, the security challenges we face goes beyond just that military perspective. There's a border perspective, no representation. We have a religious perspective, no representation. We have an ethnic perspective, no representation. Policing, no representation. So it seems that the thinking is still the military has all the solution. And if that diagnosis is still what we feel will lead us out of the woods, the answer is no. But beyond the other perspectives and representations that were missing from the Governors Forum meeting with the Chief of Defense Staff, there are two perspectives I want us to quickly talk about. The trade perspective and the climate perspective. Now, what do I mean by the trade perspective? I'd like us to take a look at the world's leaders of beef exports. And even though they are exporting so much beef, they do not have the sort of challenges with their cattle and their land that Nigeria has. See Brazil, $9.3 billion of beef exports last year. Now, I tell you, why is this important? Going by our own records, Nigeria's cattle, all of our trade in cattle, all of the exports, $25 million in a year. Yet we have so much problems. $25 million worth of cattle is what Brazil does in a day. Brazil exports the equivalent of $25 million worth of beef in a day. Yet it doesn't have this sort of cattle, herders, conflict, land grazing issues that Nigeria has. Nigeria does only $25 million in a year, and we have so much issues. Clearly, there's a lot going on beyond cattle farming and herders conflict. So we need to clearly understand that what will happen if we then even start doing the big numbers. We are not doing the big numbers, yet we have so much issues at hand. The second perspective is the climate perspective, and for me, that is perhaps the perspective the Northern Governors Forum should be looking at. Let's take a look at what exactly is the United States, the United Nations position on what is going on in Africa. What they've said in their reports that came out just about 90 days ago was shocking. Regions where the herbaceous biomass losses are predicted to be the largest tended to be concentrated in Africa. West Africa, for instance, is expected to lose up to 34% of its herbaceous biomass by 2050. In simple terms, what this report is saying is that West Africa is expected to lose more than a third of its grazing land within the next 25 years. The effects of climate change. Again, just think about it for one moment. West Africa is expected to lose over a third of its grazing land over the next 25 years. And that exactly is part of what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a lot of farmers feeling the pressure of inability to have their cattle eat, and we're still pretty much still running the traditional archaic system that isn't working. So clearly, going forward, we have to look at different perspectives to solve this problem.
Indeed, challenging times ahead from what you just talked about. Now, is the rise in insecurity, Babajide, and of course the wave that related to a withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and of course Niger from ECOWAS?
That is just a bit of the problem.
A bit of
the problem. But the bigger problem is the states having sufficient funds, and most of their funds are not going towards security. And that's where we really need to look at. Yes, we have the federal government trying to increase its budget and its allocation to security issues. The question is, Ayatunde, for 2025, the northern states, I'm talking about the 19 northern states, have a combined state budget in equivalent of 12 trillion naira. However, the average is only 2% of this 12 trillion naira goes into security. To put this in better perspective, let's take a look at how much Lagos State is budgeting to security despite not having as much issues as this northern states, and then it allows you to clearly understand it in the chart of the week. Now, what exactly is going on? The security budget, Ayatunde, for Lagos State, in terms of area, we know Lagos State clearly is the smallest landmass in the country. The state has a budget of 124 billion naira for security. The North Central, all of the states in the North Central, combined cumulative budgets, only 95 billion naira. All the 7 states in the Northwest, cumulative budget, 65 billion naira for security. All the states in the Northeast, cumulative budget, 55 billion naira. So just think about that for one moment. The security budget of Lagos State is more than the security budget of all the states in the North Central, all the states in the Northwest, all the states in the Northeast. How will they find peace with such mega security budgets?
Wow. This is really interesting, Babajide, because when you look at it, for Lagos, 124 billion. I mean, it says a lot. It really says a lot. And North Central, Northwest, and Northeast is not even up to that amount. But let's narrow it down now to the, or let me say generally now, for all the state governors, really, talking about insecurity and the responsibilities, of course. The actions of the state governors, is there any indicator to show, that they're taking any responsibility and actions, in providing security, really?
So one indicator is the meeting they had with the Chief of Defense Staff. However, these meetings have to be more frequent, and these meetings have to clearly be more inclusive with other perspectives and other institutions that are responsible for security. However, what we've seen is an over-reliance on the military. Let's take a look at some of the trips even the military leadership has done in the last 12 months. A lot of visits have gone to the Northwest. If you take a look at the travels, especially by the Chief of Defense Staff who was in that meeting, if you take a look at those trips, we've seen him go to Sokoto within the last 12 months. We've seen a lot of trips to, remember last year, July, there was a trip to Plateau State where the Chief of Defense Staff engaged with the governor, the military officers, and other stakeholders. Remember in last year, September, there was engagements with the troops in Katsina and other security stakeholders. Remember, same September, last year, special engagement with the governor, a trip to Kaduna shortly after in October. So what we've seen is we still see a lot of reliance on the defense headquarters showing leadership when it comes to community engagement and reaching out. We now need the states, the local government, and other institutions to turn up. That is really where the solution is, especially not to rely on just the military perspective to finding a solution to all of what is going on. Today, there's even a political perspective to this. Remember, last election for the Labour Party, Benue and Plateau State in the North Central were the 2 states where the Labour Party had its highest votes. So in all, we have to understand that there are several perspectives to the insecurity situation we find ourselves, especially across northern Nigeria. Ayotunde.
Well, definitely leave it at that, Babajide Ogunsanwo. Thank you for your analysis again on the News at 10.
Pleasure is always mine.